Stu, just a sound check. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me too?
I can hear you.
Can you see the presentation?
I can.
You can.
I can now. I'm sure once we start.
Uh, Chris, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Thanks for joining us. So I've got a lot of I've updated a little bit of your email this afternoon on the deck here on the business pages. So hopefully I get it right. But if there's clarification, maybe just jump in at the end of my presentation. Yeah, thank you. But it's back here in the section. I've just had swimming pools, if you can see here, guidelines still under review of music, television, and film. And then most of these are up on the business portal already, so we should be good.
So you're going to cover all this stuff? You're not looking for me to go over anything? Or
I do it all. Yep.
Excellent.
It's easier. I do like a little 10-minute. And if people are watching at the beginning, it's very helpful. So.
Okay.
Everybody, Rob.
Hey, Brian, would you be able to invite Christy Milovich as a panelist?
That would be IT. I don't.
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Whoever that is. Who is that?
IT.
I know, but who?
I don't know. Hey, Andy. Thank
Hey.
you.
Is that better, everybody? Does that make a difference to your screen, or it looks the same?
No, that looks good.
Okay. Does it come over full screen, Brian, or is it just
That's
still
full
in the,
screen right now.
is it okay? Good. Okay.
Good evening, Mono County. Thank you for joining our community conversation for June 11th. My name is Brian Wheeler from Mono County Public Health, and I'll be your host this evening. Tonight we have some of our normal casts of officials, but we also have some new faces today from the county, and we'll get to them in a little bit. But first, before we start our presentations, I'd like to remind everyone to go to our COVID portal, and that's at monohealth.com/COVID. There you can get the most up-to-date information, check out our FAQ page, you can submit questions. And Also, don't forget, we still have the 211 nurse line. You can call and speak to a nurse Monday, 7 days a week from 8 to 5. If you have concerns that maybe you were exposed to COVID or that you currently have COVID or just have questions, feel free to give a call. So now I'm going to turn it over to Stu. And Stu, go ahead and start your presentation.
Good. Thank you, Brian. Good evening, everybody. Stuart Brown, Parks and Recreation Director and Lead Public Information Officer for the Unified Command Emergency Operations Center. Today is June 11. We're just going to walk through the updates. It's been another busy 2 weeks since we chatted with everybody last. So let's get going. So conversation topics today, we want to kind of just go through, what we're really focusing on throughout the county and the town this week, how we've been doing. How is testing? How is our updates? How's our communication? Want to really touch base on the path forward. A lot of movement from the state and throughout the county on different business sectors being permitted to reopen. And then we have some community and recreation updates at the end for you. Again, our main focus throughout the county is making sure that everybody's covering up. We want to make sure that everybody's staying safe to stay open. Face covers are required throughout Mono County. Again, as Brian mentioned, call 211. So if you're sick, have symptoms, call that 211 nurse hotline and you'll be referred for testing. And then we also have several options for asymptomatic adults to get tested for COVID-19 throughout Mono County. So that's the pop-up health testing through the Public Health Department, through the Verily program. Testing, capacity is 200 to 300 tests a week. So we really have a great opportunity. So do think about getting tested, even if you're asymptomatic. Weekly metrics this week. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we were here with you last, but just the last 7 days, we've tested just under 200 people. Same amount were negative, and we've had no positive cases in the last week. Since we started, we've almost tested 900 people throughout the county. So far, we have 802 negatives, 52 pending. Still 37 positives, and then we had that one death on March 31st. And these statistics are available on the portal that Brian mentioned at the beginning under the case stats section. So just look for that logo, that little icon graphic at the top of the page there, and you can see all these graphs and more. So again, just want to remind everybody to visit the Path Forward, Reopening Mono County Safely. You can see that logo there. It's very distinctive. It's on the top right-hand section of the website, so monohealth.com/coronavirus. And that's where you're going to learn more about how we're doing, where we are on the California Resilience Roadmap, and how we're progressing through the stages. What is currently permitted throughout Mono County and the town are these business sectors. These business sectors are currently on that portal. So if you're one of these business sectors, you've been permitted to reopen. We're going to request and direct you to the tab, businesses tab, and in there you'll see these guidelines for your business. So again, everything from professional guide services, pack stations, includes marinas, private campgrounds and RV parks, hair salons. As you can see, everyone's been getting haircuts, so we're very happy about that. And then most recently, last Friday on June 5th, California Department of Public Health release guidance for additional business sectors to reopen no sooner than tomorrow. So that's June 12th, tomorrow. Some of the industry guidelines was applicable statewide. However, most of the business sectors were only applicable to those counties that have approved their local variants through attestation. And as you know, we were approved on May 20th. So business sectors permitted to open tomorrow, June 12th. These are the current list. Again, the majority of these business sectors are listed on the businesses tab of our portal. So opening tomorrow is hotels and lodging, short-term rentals, but that is only in the unincorporated areas of Mono County. Tomorrow, June 12th, but June 19th is when hotels, lodging, and short-term rentals can open in the town of Mammoth Lakes. But tomorrow, only unincorporated Mono County. You also see there we have bars, breweries, distilleries, and wineries. Campgrounds and RV parks are already open. Day camps is another new one. Family entertainment centers, Mammoth Rock and Bowl, Minaret Cinemas. Everyone's excited to get back into the gym, so you can get back and work out in our gyms and studios. Outdoor recreation, professional fishing guides, climbing guides, golf courses. Very exciting. I think Snow Creek opens on June 19th. Museum, galleries. And then the last two at the bottom there, swimming pools. So swimming pools includes public pools, pools in HOA units, pools at Snow Creek Athletic Club, Double Eagle. So that guidance is for all those businesses. And then music, television, film production is also being reviewed. So they're not there. They will not be available, we believe, tomorrow. So again, as I mentioned, this is a really important date. I know everybody's been confusing. It's been confusing for a lot of us, but June 19th is when we're able to open our hotels and lodging, short-term rental properties, Airbnbs, VRBOs, every property type in the town of Mammoth Lake. So Friday, June 19th. We're still revising the guidance, but at this time there will be a 24-hour gap between your visitor stays, and that looks like it's potentially ending July 3rd, but again, it's still being finalized. And again, the current local order established for the June 30 date will be rescinded to open up lodging on June 19th. Again, state order, even though we are still under a stay-at-home order and all non-essential is prohibited, the state has provided a statement here that says even though businesses around the state are opening up, they do recommend that you avoid traveling long distances for vacations or pleasure as much as possible. So again, they just want to remind you to avoid travel long distances. So stay home, stay local, that kind of theme. Again, do not travel if you are sick or someone in your household has had coronavirus. Again, every business that has been permitted to reopen in Mono County, the town of Mammoth Lakes is required to self-report through the self-certification portal. You can find that self-certification portal again on monohealth.com/coronavirus under the businesses tab, and that's where you'll find all this information. Again, once you go through the self-certification portal, you'll receive a certificate that you're required to display at your place of business. If you need additional guidance, we recommend to self-certify, you need to review the Mono County Business Guidance. There's also a very comprehensive frequently asked questions document that's being revised as we speak. And again, all that information is available on that website link at the bottom of the page. Let's just move over to Parks and Recreation. We've got some updates here. We've also got some updates from the Forest Service and Yosemite. But for right now, throughout the town and the county, you can see this is kind of the list of all the facilities that are open. As you can see here, Snow Creek Golf Course is going to open on June 19th. Sierra Star open before Memorial Weekend. And again, we just want to remind everybody that public restrooms are available throughout the town. You can see at those locations at all our parks. Playgrounds throughout the county, and I believe the skate parks are still closed, but the public restrooms are open. And just right at the bottom here, this came in today. So the Humboldt-Tyabe National Forest will open all of its campgrounds in California tomorrow, Friday, June 12th. So again, on the north part of the county, those campgrounds will open tomorrow. Again, if you want to look at any of this information, it is on that website link at the bottom. National Forest updates. Again, this came out yesterday. This just gives you an update on what's open, what's closed. Campgrounds opening June 12th is the Old Shady Rest, New Shady Rest, Pine Glen, and Sherwin Creek. The majority of these campgrounds that are closed are up in the Lakes Basin. And again, we don't have any confirmed date of reopening the Lakes Basin. We believe it's going to be mid-June, mid to kind of maybe 15th to the 20th of June, somewhere in there. But again, no finalized date. Again, if you want to get any of these questions answered, call the Mammoth Welcome Center, and that number there is 924-5500, and you can you can call in from 8 a.m. to 4:30. Again, stay safe, stay local. These updates came from the Yosemite National Park yesterday, last night. So again, these are all very recent. Yosemite opened today. It's very exciting. But for us over on the east side, Tioga Road will open on Monday. If you want to get up there and cycle before a lot of the road traffic, You're permitted to do that from Saturday, June 13th. The biggest change this year in Yosemite, and again, all this information is on that website, the link at the bottom there, is a reservation is required to enter by car and then to cycle on the road. It is not required if you cycle into the park. Yards, which is great, a terrific service, is projected to begin June 22nd. And you will not need an advanced Yosemite National Park entry reservation if you're on the Yacht system. So to get in the park, you'll need, as you can see there, it's right on the bottom of the page, either a day use permit, in-park camping and lodging, a wilderness or a half-dome permit, or if you're on the Yacht system. The question about driving through the park, if you're a resident on the east side or the west side, is still being finalized. We hope to have that information available soon as well. That concludes the presentation. This is a comprehensive list of all the information, local health resources available to you, the public, throughout Mono County. You can see we have a very comprehensive website in English and Spanish. If you have any questions about any of these business sectors, health concerns, where can you get testing, please email us at covid19help@mono.co.gov. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Call Chris here at the Emergency Operations Center, who'll happy to answer all your questions, 760-932-5650. And again, we issue a very comprehensive brief every Monday through Saturday. Brian, I'm going to conclude that presentation. I think I got through that in a pretty hot 10 minutes. So thank you for everybody's time.
Thank you, Stu. Before we get to our question and answer segment, we do have some fresh faces with us tonight, and I'd like to introduce them and allow them to introduce themselves and make any statements they'd like to make. So first up would be Stacy Corliss. Stacy Corliss is the chair of the Board of Supervisors for Mono County. Madam Chair.
Great. Good evening, everyone, and I'll make it quick. I just first want to thank everyone in all our county communities for everything you're doing to take care of each other and get through this. I know this has felt and feels frustrating, scary, confusing, and everything changes so quickly. I feel that way too. I appreciate your participation in our board meetings. We've had so many people give comments, send us emails, call, and Zoom in to our Tuesday meetings. We need to keep hearing from you. We need your questions, comments, and ideas. As we continue down this path to reopening, we need to keep hearing from you. There's still a lot of work to do, and we'll do it best working together. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next, I'd like to introduce our operations chief. That's Chris McCrasick. Chief.
All right, thank you, Brian. Yeah, in my regular day job, I am the EMS chief for the Mono County Paramedics. Within the Emergency Operations Center, recently we've been working with public health as far as getting the testing out, and also working with the local chambers of commerce in providing PPE so that they can open up as soon as possible and as safely as possible. So that's been a very successful program. For businesses out there that are seeking personal protective equipment, please contact your local chambers of commerce so we can get that equipment out to you. I also want to echo Supervisor Corliss's comments and just thank everybody out there for, they've been covering up, and people have been making incredible homemade masks for the public and just doing an excellent job out there. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've been so successful in Mono County, just crushing that curve and doing an excellent job. And now the fruits of our labor have been, we're now seeing the opening in Mono County. So it's been a real true success. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next, I'd like to introduce Bill Salser. He is the mayor of Mammoth Lakes. Mayor?
Thanks, Brian. I'm going to take a little different tack since Stacy and Chris both thanked the public, which is appropriate, of course. But I want to call out all of those of you who have been working on the EOC for so long. You are taking flack from a lot of people. You're working your tails off. It is a thankless job. And I want to make sure that you all understand that I, for one, and the public at large, should be showing their great appreciation for those of you that have undertaken that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And last but certainly not least, we have Rob Patterson from the town of Mammoth Lakes. Rob?
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, Rob Patterson. I'm the Admin Services Finance Director for the town. I am also working in capacity of like a backup incident commander for Dan Holler, our town manager within the EOC operations. So I'd like to echo some of the comments, really thanking the community for the efforts that they've made. I know my team here at the office has been working very hard on the short-term rental side of things and the enforcement side and trying to get folks to adhere to that. And we had a tremendous response from the community, the business community in support of that. Just a few people we've had to have conversations with, but I'm very excited about the upcoming opening that we've got slated for you here. And I want to kind of reiterate, a ton of work has gone into being able to open. I think there's a balance that we're trying to strike here between the public health and safety and the economic safety of the town. And it's a strong balancing act. So a lot of heavy lifting has been done to try to get to the point where we are. And I'm excited that we're on the doorstep. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. All right, we got, let's go to question and answers. Lauren?
I assume you're going to address this, but is Mammoth moving with the state into stage 3 tomorrow and allowing nightly rentals? It's hard to wade through all the old, outdated information on the county website.
I believe a lot of that information was in the presentation earlier, but Rob, can you address that for me?
Yeah, so the town of Mammoth Lakes is going to, we're about 7 days delayed from the opening of tomorrow. We're going to open on the next Friday, the 19th. And there's a tremendous amount of work, as you know, that went in this week to reviewing the criteria required by the state for folks to open. And I think my biggest issue or my biggest concern is that as a business community, we really need to be very sharp on those requirements to prevent a second stronger wave from hitting. You know, I think it really depends upon the response of the lodging community and how strong they are with the protocols that are put in place for cleaning and cleanliness. And that's critical to keep us from having a second wave that impacts us. That this first one was very, very challenging, and we want to do everything we possibly can to avoid a second wave. So we're opening on the 19th.
Thank you very much, Rob. Lauren, how about our next question?
I'd like to know why Walker Colville is not on the list for testing. Some people cannot make it to Bridgeport.
I can certainly address that. We are currently planning on expanding our schedule. So within the next couple of weeks, we will be pushing out some new dates, and Walker Colville area will be on that list. How about another question, Lauren?
When can we recreate in small groups? 5 non-household members? If you are going to hold camps, it seems that you can allow recreation in small groups.
Small groups gathering. I don't have Dr. Boo with me here tonight, but Dr. Burrows, are you on the line to be able to speak to gatherings?
Yeah, I don't know what ultimately is going to be permissible by the letter of the law. What I can recommend for people is, so long as you are respecting what we have described as your personal bubble. So if you can imagine a 6-foot area around you as a circle, and you don't let people into that area, and you wear a mask, and you follow some of the other recommendations we've made, like if you're going to be preparing food, one person does the preparing and serving, as opposed to everybody touching everything. That is going to at least allow you to work or be in a group of more than 5 or 6 people and try to minimize the risk that you are potentially giving yourself by multiple people touching silverware, bowls, plates, coming into contact with people. A lot of this, quite honestly, is really use your absolute best judgment. Do everything in your power to limit the spread. So if you're going to, and we know this is going to happen, if you're going to have a group of people together, then make the extra or take the extra attention to make certain that no one is taking any unnecessary risk. So as much as a pain as it is to wear a mask or decide you're the server, you're the person that's going to collect and dole out plates and cups and things like that, that will go a long way in preventing this from happening. And this is a long way around this answer, but what I can tell you is the better job that we all do of being conscious of how important everything we individually do, the more likely we're going to see no increase in cases that affect the hospital or the community, and the more likely we're going to be able to see ourselves continue to move forward. And I'm sorry that's not a super direct answer, but a lot of this really is, if you need to take 2 or 3 extra steps, please take them.
Thank you, Dr. Burrows. Lauren, do we have another question?
Will requirements for safe operations of hotels and short-term rentals be enforced?
Chris, Chief Chris, can you address that question for me? Chief McCrassick?
We've put together a quality assurance task force that will be working with, the local businesses, hotels, motels, to ensure compliance and to work with them, starting with education and then, as far as PPE and everything that they're going to be needing and meeting the requirements through their self-attestation for opening. So, we will be working with them with enforcement being, a last measure. And then maybe Rob or someone else can, fill in the blanks on that also.
Brian,
Rob? Oh, go ahead.
hi.
Hi.
My name's Christy Milovich, and I'm with the County Council's office. And I've been working alongside the EOC and along with Alicia Venos and Dr. Boo on guidelines. I can say with certainty that the county has developed several enforcement mechanisms that will go along with sort of hand in hand with the portal that businesses will self-attest in and to, and along with the guidelines. So the short answer is yes, there is enforcement, and there are several enforcement mechanisms within the county's toolbox.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you for being with us here tonight.
Brian?
Lauren, do we have a live question?
Brian?
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If I could just take a moment to address the notion of enforcement. We are not following through with enforcement in order to be punitive. We're not following through with enforcement even in order to level the playing field among those businesses that play by the rules and those which try to skirt the rules. The most important thing as we continue opening Mono County is that we maintain our safe level of number of beds available at the hospital, that we keep contagion down, that we maintain our outstanding record with no hospitalizations, with low infection rates. If we're not able to sustain that, it will ultimately be necessary, if the hospital begins to have an unsuitable caseload, it's going to be necessary to start ratcheting things back. And I don't believe that there's any resident or business owner or public official in the county that wants to see that happen. Everything that we do with respect to enforcement is serious, and it is with one goal in mind, is that we continue remaining open and be able to open more and more sectors more and more freely. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, CAO Lawton. Always a pleasure to hear from you. Lauren, can we go to the phones?
Yes, our first caller is John Buchanan. Go ahead and unmute yourself. John, are you there? I don't think he's there. So we'll come back to him in a little bit.
Okay. Do we have any other callers?
We do not. We have one more written question.
Okay, let's go to that question.
Will Mammoth Hospital be opening back up 100% to its locals for all needs? If not, how can you justify opening the town to non-residents?
Dr. Burrows.
Yeah, that's an easy answer, I'm happy to say. Mammoth Hospital is 100% open. Our clinics are fully open. We are at 100% capacity for all of our clinics, our emergency room, our hospital, and our elective procedures. We obviously have a lot of different precautionary protocols in place to try to make sure that everybody stays safe. But all the clinics are open. We are taking full advantage of using telemedicine in addition to in-person visits. We have a number of different guidelines in place to try to ensure that we have adequate spacing so we can respect physical distancing. We are asking that everybody, when they come for an appointment or they call for an appointment, they are going to wear a mask for that appointment, or I should say a face covering. So that could be a buff, it can be a homemade face mask, it can be a surgical mask, whatever you have. We are going to do symptoms checks when you show up. So certainly if you have anything that we're concerned about, like a fever, cough, shortness of breath, loss of taste or smell, if you've been exposed to someone recently within the last 2 weeks that has tested positive for COVID-19, or if you yourself have recently tested positive, well, we're going to ask you not to come for your appointment in person. We are checking everybody in anticipation of doing an elective procedure for the possibility that they may be positive. And if they are positive for COVID-19, and that's with the swab test that goes in through your nose, then we are going to postpone your surgery for 2 weeks. And that is really a safeguard on top of everything else to make absolutely certain that you are not contagious or infectious or going to affect anybody else. So be that family members, staff, any personnel that's taking care of you, so we can make sure that you have the safe and infection-free procedure that we want you to have. One of our #1 goals is to absolutely make certain that we are not spreading the virus because of what we're doing at the hospital. But let me go back to what I originally said. We are 100% open. And for that reason, and in a large part because of that reason, we are able to do all the other things we do or are doing as far as opening the town, being ready for short-term leases or housing in unincorporated Mono County in this weekend, and then the week following opening up Mammoth Lakes. It's very important to remember that everyone has to continue to follow the rules. We want to make absolutely certain that we're doing this right and that we are leading by example as far as the county is concerned, that the rest of the state, if not the country, can look at us and say, man, Mono County's got it together. They're doing it right, and look at what they've done. They've opened everything up. They haven't seen that surge that we're so worried about everywhere else.
Thank you, Dr. Burrows. And also, I understand the new specialty clinic is open. Is that true?
Yeah, we actually, so way before anything related to COVID-19 and coronavirus affected all of our lives, we had planned to remodel and then open our specialty clinic. And that is the building that sits just a little bit north of the rest of our campus and is immediately between the main hospital clinic and the high school in Mammoth Lake. That building has been completed. It is open. We do have our specialty clinic open there. We are also taking advantage of the fact that we have clinic space there now, so we can space out some of our primary care clinics like the family medicine clinic, so we can have our providers see patients there and not have everybody on top of each other in a clinic that is really bubbling with activity all the time, and allow us to see patients in a safe manner and keep our providers safe, our staff safe, and most importantly, our patients safe. Thanks for reminding me about that, Brian.
Sure, that is fantastic news. Thank you, Dr. Burrows. Lauren, I see we have more questions in the queue.
What are the plans for 4th of July weekend in regards to fireworks restrictions and enforcement?
So from the town's perspective, Rob, would you like to address that?
that's really not in my area of expertise, but
I can do that if you want, Rob. That's no problem.
sure, jump in there.
Yeah, so fireworks are prohibited throughout Mono County, so that's very clear. As far as the fireworks, the town is not producing the annual, sadly, fireworks show on Crowley Lake. But I've just been looking up information that I'm going to just read to the community. If you're not aware of what's happening on the 4th of July, the Mammoth Lakes Chamber of Commerce has organized a couple of great activities, no cost. So I'm just going to walk you through those. The first one is kind of the Mammoth Lakes Business Treasure Hunt. So the goal here is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on the 4th. Every participating business, you can collect a coin at each business if you make a purchase. You can then redeem the coins for prizes at one of the 5 booths located throughout town. So that's super easy. And then there is a static float or business decorating competition. So local businesses and organizations can create, build, design, craft a static float or decorate their business. And then they'll be judged by popular social media vote, which is cool, which is great. So definitely get around and check those out. That's hashtag Mammoth Lakes 4th of July. And then participating businesses with the most tags will be awarded a cash prize of $500 per category. So that's a lot of the activities happening throughout the community on the 4th of July. I believe there might be, and I'm sure there is, some activities up in the village as well. But again, there will be no fireworks display on Crowley Lake or in the town of Mammoth Lakes on the 3rd or 4th of July. So, Brian, hopefully I answered that question. Thank you.
Stu, do we know about any activities in the rest of the county?
I have not received any confirmation yet on the Bridgeport fireworks. I don't know if Chair Corliss or CAO Lawton has any updates on those fireworks in Bridgeport at this time. Thank you.
Hey, Brian, Ingrid Braun.
Hi, Ingrid. Sorry, Sheriff.
No, it's all good. We don't know is what we don't know. So Bridgeport is still working on a plan for something, but we don't know what that plan is yet. And we're going to find out probably in the next week or so if that will meet with the guidelines and confirm with CAO Lawton and Tom Boo and work on a plan to make sure that everything is done safely.
Thank you, Sheriff Braun. Lauren, I see we have more questions coming into the queue. You want to give us another question?
With numbers starting to rise again across the nation, can you go over again what the numbers will be that might trigger us taking a step back? How many positives per week will set the alarm off for Mono County?
Dr. Burrows, can you address that?
Yeah, I feel like I'm very popular tonight. So
I'm down to one doctor.
it is an input or a decision that's going to be made by a number of people. It's not just going to be me representing the hospital. It's not just going to be Dr. Boo representing public health. It's going to be really a combination of a lot of people you see in this panel right now, looking at the entire scope of what's going on across the county, and to some extent across the state, as far as deciding what's safe and what's not. I'm going to go back just a little bit, and I'm going to go review where we were at March, at the end of March specifically. So when we were in what we would describe as the height of our problem, we had admitted a total of 3 people to our hospital that were all in the intensive care unit. So they were as sick as they could possibly be. And ultimately, that was the number that we saw. That was, for all intents and purposes, our spike. So clearly, Mono County is not Los Angeles County. We don't have millions of people living in our county, but that was what we saw. That was what we prepared for, and that was what we were, frankly, terrified about, was the idea that our hospital, which on a good day or a normal day has the capacity for 17 inpatients, and we have 2 intensive care unit beds. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating some of this, but I think it's important that everyone understand we had designed plans and contingencies to be able to admit up to 40 people, so more than twice our normal capacity, and be able to accommodate the need to take care of 10 intensive care patients. So these are people that are on breathing machines and unable to support their own their own organ systems, like their blood pressure, their breathing, and they would require a massive amount of care. And this was also assuming the idea that we were not going to be able to transfer anywhere because everyone else was going to be flooded as well. So our normal fallback position of saying we're going to transfer people to the big hospital, Renown Medical Center in Reno, California, in Reno, Nevada, or Carson Tahoe Hospital in Carson City, or any of our Southern California contacts, those were all going to be non-existent as far as a transfer option. That all came and went, and again, I don't want to beat this to death, but because of everything that everyone in this county did to ratchet things down and prevent this from becoming something we could not handle, we never saw that spike that we were all absolutely terrified about and spent hour after hour, week after week planning for and wondering what are we going to do if and when this happens. So enter now, we've gotten to the point where we did not see that spike. And we are still obviously looking at the rest of the world, the country. And we know that different states like Georgia, Florida, certainly New York is seeming like on their down path of this now. But places for the most part that have opened up, that are now saying you can come to restaurants, you can come travel here, you can stay here, you can do the tourism stuff. Salons are open, restaurants are open, bars are open, etc. We're seeing the cases are going up. There's a difference in what we're going to see case-wise. So one possibility is that we're going to see people that are actually infected. They have symptoms. They need to come to the emergency room. They need to get admitted to the hospital. They need to be in a hospital room. They potentially need to be in an intensive care unit. Then there's this other population of people that may test positive, but really don't have symptoms anymore. And that's what Brian and Dr. Boo are doing with public health as far as random testing and doing tracing to say if you were exposed to somebody that maybe was infected or tested positive, we're going to test you and see if you were also exposed, and if you test positive. Frankly, that's what we want to see, or I want to see, is the number of people that were exposed, that test positive, that are no longer felt to be symptomatic. That to me represents the population that now means that it has spread sufficiently through our community and our population that we are not seeing the wildfire we were so desperately afraid of. What we're seeing actually is just evidence that it went through, people were exposed, they got over it, they may or may not have ever been symptomatic or infectious, and they are no longer a risk to anybody. They just represent people that came in contact and they're over it now. If we get to the point where we see people coming from different parts of the state or the country or even the world, frankly, where we now have people that are presenting that are infectious. So these are people now that have fever, have cough, they're short of breath, they're needing to be admitted to the hospital. We absolutely have a threshold in mind to say, wow, we're moving way too fast. This is going to spin out of control again. And the threshold we have, quite honestly, is much higher than anything we ever saw. So even in the worst of our situation, when we saw people in the hospital that needed to be in the intensive care unit, we had, for the most part, one person at a time in the hospital at the end of March, and never more than two. And that was an overlap of maybe 1 or 2 days where we had maybe 2 people in the hospital. So we have decided that if we were to see 5 people in the hospital with active infections with COVID, that would absolutely be a red light warning to say we are in deep trouble here, because the 5 we're seeing in the hospital is representative of who knows how much is out there in the community that we have not yet seen. So in conjunction with that number, in talking with Dr. Boo and working with public health and getting a feel for what's going on around the community, that would be our decision to say, we need to back off, we need to ratchet back down, we need to lock down back to the point where we were back in early April or May. And let me be the first to say, absolutely nobody wants that. We would very much like everything to keep moving forward. So again, I'm going to emphasize, if everyone continues to follow all the precautions they have to, wear a mask, wash your hands, be obsessive about washing your hands, keep your distance, be mindful of all the rules and regulations we're asking you to follow, we're not going to see that situation, and we're going to be able to keep moving forward. But this is very much about all of us following the rules, and not some of us following the rules and some of us deciding this is not that big a deal. Because the consequences of that situation where not all of us are in this together is basically shut down again. And that would be an absolute disaster. Nobody wants that.
Thank you, Dr. Burrows. Lauren, how about another question?
When will the town transient rental guidelines be posted, and when will lodging facilities be able to self-certify?
I'm sorry, you broke up on my end. Can you repeat that?
Absolutely. When will the town transient rental guidelines be posted, and when will lodging facilities be able to self-certify on the portal?
Ah, okay, I got you that time. Sorry. Thank you, Lauren. Rob, can you address that for me?
Yes. So today I saw a draft press release that did have some of the guidelines that we've been working on this week. And I know we've sent out a note to our BTC holders, business tax certificate holders, linking them to that site. As far as the certification on that, I think it'll be closer to the 19th when they'll be able to self-certify. I think the rules that are out there right now are to educate folks on the things that need to be done. And again, with the letter I sent out to the business tax certificate holders, it had a copy of that with the links. Is there any other panelists that would like to weigh in?
Hi, Rob. Hi, everyone. It's Alicia Venice, Economic Development Director for Mono County. We've been working really hard on the business guidelines for the businesses that are able to reopen tomorrow. And the portal actually should be ready for most of these businesses by tomorrow morning. So we'll send out a press release letting folks know when that will be available.
That is great news. Thank you. Lauren, any other questions?
What are the plans for Whitmore Pool opening to swimming?
That's me, Brian.
Go ahead, Stu. I was just going to say that.
I've been waiting for this question. It took half an hour to come through, so we're very excited. We are currently reviewing guidelines for swimming pools. So on Friday, the state announced that swimming pools are part of fitness, recreation, amenities. So we're very excited. We immediately started drafting, reviewing, appraising different guidelines from different organizations throughout the country. And then certainly what was provided by the state. Dr. Boo has those guidelines. And as soon as we get confirmation that they are approved, we'll look at an opening date for Whitmore. We have a few things to work on, as you know, but we'd be excited to announce an opening of Whitmore if we can shortly. So hopefully that answers that question, Brian.
Thank you, Stu, and I really look forward to getting into a swimming pool again. Hey, Lauren, do we have any live callers?
We do not.
Okay, then let's go to our next question.
What areas are considered to be part of Mammoth Lakes, and what areas are considered part of unincorporated Mono County?
All right, so haven't heard from the mayor of Mammoth Lakes. Would you like to address what is Mammoth Lakes?
Well, without having a map in front of me, hard to do. But Mammoth Lakes is basically a 3 square mile area that is just within the town. I don't know any other way to put it without having a shared screen and show you what the map is.
and that's
from Mammoth Mountain basically to 395 would be the town of Mammoth Lakes.
All right, thank you very much. And pretty much everything else then would be unincorporated.
That's right, Brian. Thanks, Mayor Salzer. So all the communities outside of Mammoth Lakes, including Crowley, Convict, Benton, June Lake, Lee Vining, Bridgeport, Walker, Colville, Topaz, Chalfont, Swell Meadows, basically everything else in the county is all considered unincorporated. I hope that helps.
If you're someplace that isn't called Mammoth Lakes, you are in the unincorporated area.
Thank you very much, all. Next question, please.
Do you have any updates on Mammoth Mountain Ski Area? And if not, do you have any plans to have representatives?
Rob Patterson, are you able to address that?
You know, I know that we have direct communications. The leadership of Mammoth Mountain does talk to town manager Dan Holler on a regular basis. So there's good communication between that. I don't have any specific information about their plans to open. I think as any business, they're interested in doing the right thing and doing it at the right time. But I don't have any specifics on exactly when. But I can confirm that the communication stream is strong between town leadership and the mountain leadership.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, Brian, I can just quickly say, sorry if I jumped on anybody there, but so we're awaiting an imminent release of kind of summer operations for Mammoth Resorts. So I would expect that to be out shortly, probably within the week, and then we will invite representatives from Mammoth Resorts to the next community conversation, Brian, on June 25th.
All right, perfect. I believe our mayor would like to.
If I can
Go
add
ahead, Mr. Mayor.
what I heard today, and I wasn't told it wasn't for public consumption, so was that they got a budget approved from their headquarters to open the bike park, and that if everything goes and their plan is accepted, they plan on opening the bike park on the 26th of June.
Well, that is good news. Thank you, Mayor. Lauren, do we have another question?
The 600 folks that protested the other day were not practicing social distancing. Why wasn't it enforced?
Sheriff Braun.
Well, I don't know that it was 600 people, but it was a number of people. It was probably close to 400 people. And they did the best that they could. Many wore masks. Once they got to the park, they were pretty distant from one another. And it's a matter of balancing the right of free speech with enforcing the public safety and the public health needs. And we did the best that we could, but you really don't want to yank somebody out of a protest for not wearing a mask. We wanted this to be as peaceful as possible and as productive as possible, and for them to have their voice and to be heard. And if that meant some of them didn't wear masks, then that's what happened. But it was overall a very peaceful, very productive march, and I congratulate everybody who participated. And I got to tell you, most of them wore masks. I wore masks, a mask. Chief Davis wore a mask. I saw a bunch of firefighters there. It was a really well-attended, well-regulated event.
Thank you, Sheriff Braun. Lauren, do we have any more questions?
We do not have any more questions at this time.
Would any of the panelists like to speak to the public?
You know, I'll step in and just ask if they all keep up the good work. You know, we've all worked very hard. We all come from different positions, but very important that we keep respecting one another so that we can, as Stacy said earlier, pull this through this thing as one community.
Thank you, Bill, Mayor Sauser. Brian, I would just like to add, you know, that Mono County Behavioral Health and all of us at Mono County realize how stressful this has been. It's taken such an emotional toll on all of us. And last night, we, under the leadership of Robin Roberts, our Behavioral Health Director, put together a new type of community meeting, community conversation called Coping with COVID. And I want to invite everyone to participate. The next one will be Wednesday, June 24th, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. The information will be on the coronavirus website. And just think about what can we do as a community to heal and get through this together better? Not technicalities of what date will this open, what are the guidelines? That's all the wonderful work you all are doing, Brian. But how can we work together to heal as a community? So I want to invite everyone, including my fellow panelists, to join us for this continuing conversation on June 24th. And thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Chair Corliss. Lauren, do we have any questions?
We do not.
Do any of the panelists have any last statements?
I'd just like to weigh in, Brian, and talk a little bit about the opening that we've got coming up here, obviously, for the on the 19th for the town of Mammoth Lakes, and just sort of reiterate that it's the guidelines that are out there are really they can seem arduous, they can seem challenging. I do have the utmost confidence in our business community to weigh through those and to understand what they need to do and to solve the issues for their individual businesses. I think I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of great businesses within this town, and I know it's within them to do so because that's why they're in business, frankly. But it's absolutely critical that element be a success, and mainly for keeping us all safe. We're on the kind of the cusp of opening up and really inviting people to our town, and I think it's really the most critical time when we really need to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can. As I said before, I want to avoid at all costs another closure or shutdown, because I understand the catastrophic nature of that for all the businesses, as well as, frankly, the town's finances. But we just need to try to avoid that and work together on that process. I think this has been a long road. It's almost 3 months here that we were coming about, and I'm excited to see all the things that are opening. I just don't want to see us take any steps backwards. So we really need everybody pushing the same side of the rock here and really trying to get this part of it done. And I want to thank the businesses that have really come forward, helping develop these rules, helping develop these protocols, but really the input, the feedback that we've got, and the support we have. So I just want to thank them for that, and then just thank them for the next phase that they're about to partake in.
Thank you so much, Rob. Lauren, I think I see one more question in the queue.
It is conflicting to encourage travel to the area while the state is discouraging non-essential travel. Can you explain?
Chief McCrasset, can you address that?
It is conflicting, and it's, some of the things that come out of the state are hard to interpret and to figure out. But I think people have been locked down for so long that they're going to get out and move about. So it's, the state still has a stay-at-home order, but we're going to do the best we can to accommodate and just do it as safely as we can. And I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in.
I'd like to add to that too, Brian. And from a non-technical perspective, again, we elected officials, aren't involved in the actual emergency response. What I've been involved with, though, is a regional effort to address these conflicting realities of tourism and recreation, not only in Mammoth Lakes, but in places, our neighbors to the west, Mariposa and Tuolumne and Madera counties, all our gateways to Yosemite National Park. And as Chris said, we realize people are coming. People want to, they've been on lockdown. They want to come up to the mountains. Many people own homes here. They want to come up, so we have to be able to address that. So we actually lobbied and advocated to the state to allow us, not just Mammoth Lakes and Mono County, but tourism destinations, particularly in rural counties like ours, to be able to open to accommodate visitation safely under the guidance of public health. So I think we all fully realize, and I know the state also realizes, that there's conflict here. And that's a really tough part of this that we kind of have to learn to live with and do our best to keep people safe.
Thank you so much, Chair Corliss. Before we go to our next question, I see we do have a couple questions. I just want to remind everybody that our next community conversation will be June 25th, same time.
Hey,
Lauren,
Brian,
we have another question? Yes.
Brian, can I tag in on that last question? Because
absolutely.
One of the things that we've asked to do, certainly from the EOC's perspective, is not to have our businesses that are opening do a mass, email blast out there, really, shouting from the top of the mountain that we're open and please come. I think there's a lot of nuances in the words that are used. If you see, I think in the opening from Stu, it was really talking about non-essential long distance travel, and really trying to understand and acknowledge that people are moving around a little bit. But from the business side of things, we've asked people really your calendars can be open, but don't, hit us really hard. I know MLT is really trying to navigate what that means for them to start inviting people back in a responsible way. So I think we're really trying to do this softly and sort of walk through the month of June and sort of play out and see how things really are before we start really hitting it hard to invite people here. So I think we're trying to do our part there.
Thank you, Rob. Lauren, can we have our next question?
In the past, it was said that we would move with the state when it moved fully into stage 3 for nightly rentals. Did our additional cases prevent that, and what stage are we in now?
Chief McCrassick, can you address that?
Let's see, I'd kind of like to defer to Rob if I could on that one.
Sure, absolutely. Rob?
Yeah, so as far as the stages, I mean, we're like stage 2 expanded, and I think that the roadmap may have gotten a little bit muddled with some of the quick movements that have been recently made. I think, for our intents and purposes, we're trying to align as quickly as possible with the state and what they want to open. But as I've been stating throughout most of my time here tonight on the panel, is that we have to do it responsibly. And those rules and regulations that we've been working on feverishly this week, and really after digesting what the state put out and trying to align that with what we have in town here, I think we need a little bit more time in order for the businesses to receive those documents, to understand and make the changes they need to open. So another 7 days is what we're asking for on that, and that's why it's opening on the 19th.
Thank you so much. We have time for one more question, Lauren.
We don't have any other questions. We just have a comment. Thank you to all of the panelists.
Okay, well, thank you.
Brian, if I could go back to the last question.
Sure.
Rob did a great job of answering. The state sort of changed the rules on our EOC and on those of us as elected almost 2 weeks ago on Friday, when the governor came out and said that it's going to be up to the local officials with attestation as to how they open and when they open. It sort of unexpectedly threw the ball back into our court. So now we have asked for and receive the permission to open. And believe me, it felt a little odd because the state wants you to stay at home, but they're telling us we can open. So there was a change in how the state was dealing and a change in their verbiage on what was allowed, from you can't to you shouldn't. It became very cloudy at that point.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, that is about all the time we have tonight. Reminder that our next community meeting is on the 25th of June. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. Good night, Mono County.